Top 5 Monday thoughts after week 6. Number 5. Baylor's in deep bleep right now. They are.
Say it.
Say it? They're in deep shit. There's no way around this. I mean, I'm having a trouble seeing a way through for Coach Aranda and this staff because I don't know if they can win enough to where they barely miss a bowl game. You can say, well, we did this well, but they've not done anything well. They've had one good quarter the whole year, and they beat an FCS team just by being the FBS team on the field.
Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So that like, I don't know. Like, I'm not trying to prognosticate anything. I'm just having a hard time seeing the way through.
Yeah, I mean, I'll push back a little bit on they've had one good quarter. I think they've played some good quarters, but they haven't played very good games overall. Yeah. And the UCF win, which is their most impressive win and only their second win, was all based on one quarter. So, yeah, I think they played a good quarter or two against Utah, or a good quarter or two here and there. But, no, the point stands, and the thing that could prevent it is a buyout. The thing that could prevent it are the things that, come into play that don't have anything to do with us just as fans or as media saying, well, that dude deserves to be fired or they should make a change. Those are the kinds of things that can stand in the way. Here's my whole issue, though, with the way this is going, and if it continues on the trajectory that it is, and then, no changes are made. How do you sell the fan base throughout the rest of this offseason, this next offseason? What do you sell them on?
Yeah.
What are you convincing them of? What are they getting excited about? Because you just did that. You just did that this entire past offseason with the transfers and all these different things, coordinator changes. So you go into the offseason and then just another 8 months of just trust us. I don't think you can afford to do that anymore because I don't think you got people turning up at the spring game anymore. I don't think you've got people investing the same way anymore. So, yeah, I mean, they're in a pickle. The only solution is winning, and thankfully, I think for everybody, there's a couple of weeks of just everybody can catch their breath and just sort of chill out and not worry about a result this weekend, and then go from there when they get back here in a couple of weeks. But I think the break comes at a great time. Certainly, everybody needs it. But yeah, I mean, what do you sell in the future as if it doesn't get any better this year? That's going to be a long off season. And what are you telling recruits? Like, how is recruiting getting any better if all of a sudden you are very much on the hot seat? So anyways, we'll have plenty of time for deeper discussions about this.
Yeah. Number 4, Mario Cristobal will need a big W to wash this off, and he may never. Like, he might. Chris and I talked about it on the triple option earlier today, and it might be one of those things. He could win a national title at Miami, and instead of people saying like, hey, good job on the national title, they'd be like, man, I never thought you could do it after that Georgia Tech game. They're still going to bring it up because it was so terribly bad what he did. And I can't even begin to think what the message boards were like in the immediate time of it. And then he took full responsibility for it, sure. And I guess it's part of the culture of coaching and players and all that, but I wonder if Tyler Van Dyke would have just taken a knee and taken a quick yelling like, hey, I told you to run this play. He'd be like, hey, the clock's run out. The game's over now. We're fine.
There's no way that if any of the players on offense would have made a comment, what are we doing? Just take a knee, and a player had done that. There is no way they should be disciplined by the head coach. Now, if you're in the military and your commanding officer says run up that hill no matter what's coming at you, that's what you do, right? But in football, someone with a football IQ, and there's no way that Tyler Van Dyke doesn't, or the left guard or the running back, somebody there needs to intervene.
Well, I mean, there was a player they showed on the sideline camera who was like, what are we doing? And obviously he wasn't going over to the coach to say anything. But, yeah, I mean, that was just baffling. And, again, bad enough that you had fans of all backgrounds wondering if there was, gambling involved. I mean, that's how bad it was. And so, and depending on how the rest of the season goes, what if they're like on the outside looking in of the playoff because of that one loss where you just totally, threw the result away? Yeah, that was awful. That was awful.
Yeah. Number 3, somebody woke up Uga. That I guess maybe that's Auburn. Maybe Georgia woke up themselves. I don't know, but I thought Kentucky would have had a pretty good shot at keeping that thing tight while not winning between the hedges, but holy cow, they unleashed. So whatever Kirby Smart said this last week worked, and Georgia's schedule already not that hard on the way out. I fear for the bodies of the players that have to play against Georgia after that one.
Yeah, I mean, you thought that would be far more competitive than it was, and Georgia had shown a little bit of maybe not being as greatly as touted, but yeah, they're really good. They're still really good, and they can turn it on when they want to, I suppose, and they definitely had some control over that because they turned the on button on this past weekend, and yeah, that was a massacre, and they're really good. No surprise, and they're the number one team in the country for a reason, and I don't think it's just like last year. I think that they've got the goods. They just maybe hadn't shown it up until Saturday all the way, but they've shown it now, and any murmurs or questions about, well, do they deserve to be, or are they really I think that's all gone to the wayside pretty quickly.
Did you guys look at the overall team stats?
A little bit, yeah.
Wasn't it maybe 600 yards to 180 or something like that?
Yeah, it was ridiculous. And I turned the game on for a minute when we here, and I was like, all right, here we go. You guys had left to go to the game, and Garrett and I were here, and then all of a sudden it was just a red wave, just unbelievable rolling over Kentucky. So unreal.
I'm sure Kirby Smart before the game said, listen, nobody thinks you can win another game. Nobody believes in us. And part of it this time might be that there were people questioning them.
Yeah, they're saying you're not as good as last year. Yeah, all those things. Number 2, Alabama's just fine. They're not great. They're not what Nick Saban probably wants them to be, but they still have the best coach in the country. They have a good staff. They've decided that they're going to operate within themselves, and Nick Saban just basically dared Jimbo to Jimbo a couple times during the game, overcame turnovers and sacks and penalties. This does not look like any kind of good Alabama team. But in the SEC West, the way that it is right now, they're probably just going to walk through and win it because they're the best coach team.
I know that they gave up some yards too, but I thought that they're starting, some of their playmakers on defense are starting to make plays more than just being in the game. They're starting to get pressure from their front. They're not perfect, as you said, by any means, but they're starting to have guys make big plays on defense, too.
Yeah, their defense is really good, and, Jalen Milroe, I thought, played a really good game, and he's obviously got some skills, but I think this is, a masterclass in coaching that we're watching from Nick Saban in so many ways, the way he sort of handled this first part of the season, and, they've got everything still there for the taking, despite the loss to Texas. So, yeah, they're in good shape. They're just fine, like you said. I don't know if they're an all-time great team by any means, but they don't have to be to win big things. And, they're going to be a fascinating team to watch the rest of this way.
Yeah, I just love the ability and the constitution to sit through that USF game that they had and look at everybody and go, look, you don't think I'll do this to you? If you don't buy in, you don't think I'll do this to you? I'll do it.
No, he might be enjoying this more as a challenge to kind of just get an adrenaline rush. By the way, back to Kentucky, they had 329 yards rushing against Florida. They had 55 against Georgia.
Yep. Yeah, I think Georgia clearly watched the Florida tape and said, we're not allowing this to happen to us, and we're way better than that. That's no chance that's happening. And that was the question with Kentucky was like, yeah, they ran for, buku yards, but are you going to do that again? Are you going to do that against Georgia? And no, the answer is no. They were not going to do that again.
Yeah. Number 1, Jimbo Fisher has not changed. Coach of the Year 2013. Polishes it off. Looks at it all the time. Look at this. Look how awesome I am. Well, it's 2023, Jimbo. You got to go for it on 4th down. You got to take some chances. He is dead last, and thanks to Zach Barnett, our friend from Football Scoop, for compiling this, but pretty much dead last over the decade in going for it on 4th down. And 2013 FSU, you can kind of buy that because they didn't have a lot of 4th downs that year. They didn't need to. 2014, they had to come back in a bunch of games that probably spiked the numbers a little bit where he did, but then it's just nothing's changed. And if you give Bobby Petrino the permission to call the offense, but don't let him go for it on fourth down, and you've still got that complete control over it, then are you really letting Bobby Petrino call the offense? No, you're not. And so they're right back in the middle of it. Like they're right there. So
yeah, I mean that was a bad look for them. That was a big opportunity and big chance to really make some waves and to prove that they're on a different course than they have been in years past. And I think you feel like you got dealt a big old egg, right? With that result. And yeah, I know that the conversations are fiery when it comes to his future and buyouts and all those different types of things. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how that continues to play out the rest of this season. But a massive missed opportunity for them this past Saturday.
I listened to and I hate to say this, but like during the second half of Baylor and Texas Tech, monitoring the game, I listened to Saban, I listened to Venables, I listened to Sarkisian. He was with some players. I listened to one other post game, and then I listened to Jimbo. And it would drive me nuts because his post game, and perhaps if you're an A&M fan, you can say I'm wrong, but everything to start for minutes upon minutes upon minutes is almost going through every situation that occurred during the game. Not an opinion about it, but like we had a fourth down, we went for it. It's about it's like reading a play-by-play sheet instead of just getting in a post-game statement and letting people ask him questions about what he reeled off for the first 5 minutes of the press conference.
Yeah, those are the things that's going to get him undone at A&M is that
almost a filibuster.
He's not adaptable.
Carrot, do you have